This week I found myself in a very familiar situation. Okay, so I just need to make one more mining facility and then I can quit. Oh wait, I need the shipping route too, and then I can actually utilize that mining facility. Ooh, awesome, I can ship iron bars now. That's gonna be so much more profitable. Wait, what's that symbol? Wood planks, how do I make wood planks? Oh, these routes would be so much faster if I just added a couple roads and then I changed all of these roads too. I can research wood planks now?
3:28 a.m.
I'm never going to bed again. When a game gets its claws into me the way that Voxel Tycoon has, for me, it's a moment of celebration. Yes, I've completely lost a ton of sleep, and sure, I have completely lost all sense of time several times this week, but that flow state, that zen-like gameplay is something that so many of us are always looking for. And here I found it in a business simulator where you mine, you ship, and you fabricate new goods in order to maximize your profit and expand your territory in an infinite landscape. What's probably most fascinating about Voxel Tycoon is that it really doesn't do anything new or innovative. Simulation games, though, have a long history of being extremely complicated and at times very obtuse. When my youngest son was 2 years old, he had a phrase for this. Anything that he found to be backwards, confusing, or obtuse, he would call butt in the front. And I have to say that simulation games today are more butt in the front than they have ever been. But this is where Voxel Tycoon succeeds where others have failed. This is the least butt in the front simulation game that I have played in the last couple years. What's really saying something about this as well is that this game is just coming out to early access, but that doesn't mean that it's not feature full right now. It spent a couple years on itch.io in its pre-alpha phase. They are moving it to early access now on Steam. There's no telling how long it will be there, but I have to say, this game feels like a full release. So far, the developers are saying that there's some content that they want to add to the game, but the only thing that I could find in this game that made it not a full release was I ran into a couple very minor bugs where either the AI got confused and couldn't deliver my goods, or there were some small issues with laying down various bits of conveyor belt or roads that could probably be polished a little bit. I should pause my praise and ravings of this game though for a moment so that I can talk about the gameplay mechanics. At its core, Voxel Tycoon is a business simulator. You run a mining, shipping, and fabrication company that is trying to expand over territory and make as much money as it can, basically like any other tycoon game. When you start the game out, you'll have a number of towns in your local vicinity and a number of raw resources. By building a mining facility, a shipping building, a number of roads, and adding a few trucks, you'll be able to take the raw resources from the mining facility and move them to the towns where the demand exists. Over time, you'll add mining facilities to all of the raw resources in your original territory and begin distributing that to local businesses in those towns. As those towns begin to thrive, they'll then demand more resources, which will encourage you to grow. You'll be adding more and more trucks to the roads, which will then need to add more and more efficient roads so that the trucks can get from A to B without being stopped. Eventually, you'll get to a point where demand appears for resources that you don't have. You'll need to then research how to make those resources and then begin the fabrication process. This uses factories and conveyor belts and a system of manufacturing that will allow you to output the enhanced goods into a warehouse and allow you to ship them to meet the new business demand. Along the way, using your existing shipping routes, you can also put together a system of public transportation among the towns in your territory. By setting up bus stops and putting buses on the roads and designing their routes, you'll be able to make money just moving people around. This feature did feel a little bit shallow though, and I think that's because it's a newer feature. While this was easy money, this feature had no incentive making me want to build a public transportation system. I just happened upon it. It would have been better implemented if the game required you to do the public transportation as part of your business operations. Hopefully they end up addressing this in the early access so that this feels more inclusive in the overall gameplay of the core mechanics. At some point though, you will reach the limitations of your original territory and will need to find new raw materials that aren't available in that initial territory. In order to do this, you're going to have to rack up over $1 million and start purchasing territories around you. This is where Voxel Tycoon gets a little bit interesting because Voxel Tycoon claims that it is an infinite world that it exists in. While I was unable to test this claim, I did find that as I started buying territories, it seemed to go on forever. So theoretically, you would be able to expand this business operation that you have into the surrounding territories and go on into the infinity. At the start of this entire process, the game does give you a tutorial that's a 10-step process that allows you to set up your mining and your initial shipping operations. While the game itself is rather intuitive, this tutorial is very well done, and I can't overstate how important that is for a simulation game. So many games that I have played in the past rely that you understood how simulation games have worked before them in order for you to understand how to play themselves. This reliance on previous games is an unacceptable design in simulation games, and this plays a large part in why I call these games butt in the front. A large portion of the complexity is presented at the beginning of the game. Voxel Tycoon, though, has done you the favor of not doing that. The only catch to this praise is that the tutorial ends after 10 steps and ends with the mining and original shipping process. It does not cover the research process or the fabrication process, which I think are very necessary additions. In addition to the expansion of the tutorial, I also think that there's some quality of life upgrades that could really make this game just a little bit snappier. One thing I did find to be a little bit painful was that the game seems to be lacking a lot of hotkeys, which would really help with people that want to build very quickly. In addition to hotkeys, I felt that there was a lot of actions that could have been done in bulk, like setting transit lines or buying trucks, for instance, where I'd want to buy multiple trucks, but every single truck I buy, I'd have to do 3 different clicks. These types of changes would make the gameplay even more intuitive and even more enjoyable for the player. Overall, these criticisms are very nitpicky, very subjective, and are not indicative of something that I would normally say about an early access game, but this game, again, feels like it's a full game releasing on Steam. So I'm very confident that they'll have time to smooth out some of these very simple design issues. From my understanding, the game is coming out at a price of $25, which is a little bit steep on the indie early access side, but I assure you, for me, this game is 100% worth it at $25. I would pay that price all day long just to have those zone out moments. Voxel Tycoon is totally worthy. If you enjoyed this video, then take a look at my channel and see if you enjoy some of my other videos. As always, thanks for hanging out with me, and until next time, this has been Pixel.